Welcome to Monday Mornings with Michelle, the new business podcast. Whether you're kicking off your day or kickstarting your business, Michelle is going to kick your ass into next week with the essential fours: strategy, systems, support, and state of mind. Now, welcome to center stage, Michelle Nedelec.
Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec. I am super glad that you're here with us today because I am here with my most amazing guest, Tracy. Hello, Tracy.
Hi, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. I am so excited for our peeps to get to know you. So I want it in your own words. Give us a 5,000-foot view of who you are and what you do.
So professionally, my name is Tracy Lamourie. I'm the founder and managing director of Lamourie Media. We incorporated a year ago. 5 years before that, we were a general part. Yeah, yay! I'm pretty excited. 5 years before that, we were a general partnership, me and my husband. And before that, I was a freelancer doing this for about 4 years. And but before that, I learned to write a press release when I was 28. So I'm 51 now. I started my business at 41. Learned to write a press release, not for business, not thinking about going into it for a living, not knowing really what a publicist was, but simply for messaging. I was good at writing, I was good at messaging. I was a young activist. At the same time, I was in sales and marketing, just entry-level sales jobs, right? Bottom of the barrel, but not barrel, the bottom of the line, the low-run worker, right? Yeah. But meanwhile, I was pretty brilliant on the activist side, and my husband and I learned about the case. We weren't involved with anything like that, but we learned about the case. We had a radio show for a while that was focusing on issues of racism and corruption and abuses and that kind of stuff. And then we learned about the case of a man named Jimmy Dennis, who was saying he was factually innocent on death row in Pennsylvania. We weren't involved with stuff like that. Nobody was really helping. Some reason, something called us to we were like, how innocent can this guy be? And I think because we'd had the radio show before, we were in that information, more than just being activists, we were still in that information gathering mode. We wrote a letter, why did we write that letter? Actually wrote a letter, pen to paper, mailed it to death row to a stranger. And he, right? We look back and it's the only thing that I think is because of that. I was thinking a lot about this recently, because that, not because before I was like, yeah, activists, yeah, but what made us do that? But it was that, tell us about it, because we used to have that platform. We don't anymore, but still, wait a minute, what? So he wrote back 28 pages on both sides of all the case and sent documentation. So that leads to the question of, so now what do we do? Because, and it was very compelling, even just with what he said. So now do we just say, oh, cool, that was an interesting read, thanks.
Thanks, Sharon.
Clearly somebody, we had to do something, but we didn't have anything that we could do. We were 28-year-old activists. We certainly didn't have money. We were I just bought a house. We were okay. We weren't in poverty. We were both working full-time plus part-time to pay the mortgage, to, you know what I mean? So we were just scraping by as a young couple, no kids. So we were able to put our time into this. So we thought, oh, my husband learned how to make a website. It was the mid 90s. And I learned how to write it was the late 90s, 98. And I learned how to write a press release. I literally went to the Alta Vista, Michelle, pre-Google, the Alta Vista for immediate release. I figured that out. And then we didn't have Twitter to tweet at reporters. We did have the interweb though. So you could go to all the websites and info at newsroom.com. Yeah, super slowly with your dial up. You could go and find out the contact information for the main news desk and send it. And we did that for hours everywhere, all over the world, until we finally got, some attention. It was hard in the States to get attention for someone at that time who was convicted. There was no Making a Murderer. There were no shows like that in those days. It was pre all that. So inside America was very slow going, and there weren't blogs. However, we got newspaper, radio, television in Australia, in Turkey, in Netherlands, in Der Spiegel in Germany. Eventually they became a little team of maybe 20 people at different times, and it was a solid team of about 8 or 9 people that stuck beside Jimmy for 19 years.
Holy crap.
He got out. Long story short, that's about as short as I can make that crazy story. I tried to make it shorter, but it's really hard. You have to know this to know who I am, because otherwise I'm just this wildly successful publicist. It's a different story. So really, that wasn't the trajectory. I didn't have an education. I didn't go to school for this. I was, a writer. I was good at messaging. I was passionate about what I was saying and doing, and we stuck there. We did that. He ended up being freed in 2017 because halfway through that time, a legal team from Washington, this doesn't happen. It's like unicorns, a 7-person legal team that was looking across the country for a case they could do pro bono of factual innocence. Because they were a big law firm that does all this stuff and makes all this money. They're like, no, we want to do, this is our giving back. And because, of all the noise we were making, by the time they started asking around the legal community, all kinds of people said, look at Jimmy Dennis, look at Jimmy Dennis. Anyway, so they did the legal work. They freed him. For 20 years. We were his support team as well as the other people that got involved. So, but still,
Oh my God, that's an awesome story.
and I'm still in
That's
sales and
fantastic.
marketing. That's all. We're on CNN, MSNBC, Core TV, getting all this because we figured out that we couldn't talk about one prisoner. But this is here. I learned how to be a publicist. We could talk about the greater issue. So we called it the Canadian Coalition Against the Death Penalty. And then we were really aggressive in our messaging in terms of like, no, this is wrong. Like we weren't pussyfooting around and lighting candles outside of execution saying kumbaya. We were like, this is a grievous human rights abuse. And so they were putting us on CNN, MSNBC, Court TV. Me and my husband Dave, we don't have a law degree. We literally had no media other than a little radio show in Toronto. And yet it took me another 10 years. We just kept on doing our day jobs, we were already successful in what we were trying to do. It wasn't about work. It wasn't until Jimmy was close to being freed. We were pretty much seeing the wheels turning by that time. And it literally hit me one day at 41. Here's how it becomes more universal and where you can take that story and get inspiration from it, even if you're not involved with some crazy death row story, which I wasn't either at the beginning. But, and by the way, we speak every day to Jimmy. He's a recording artist now. And now I have the pleasure, instead of saying, please help us save his life like I did for 20 years, I can say, available on all streaming platforms. Jimmy Dennis just had a new song. So please go check him out. Well, I say it's a pleasure. Like I get chills every time I say that because he's getting actually industry attention and he's been in Rolling Stone and Sirius XM and everything. So that's a whole other story.
Wow, that's awesome.
But it hit me. So meanwhile, as he's getting, just before that happened, unrelated to that, because meanwhile I've been doing all my sales and not, we'd settled down on the media stuff for quite a few years because once Jimmy had the legal team, lawyers usually like things to be quiet in media while they're doing their court business, and you got to respect that when you've got the legal team, right?
Yeah, they finally stepped in.
Thank you.
Okay, we will do what you say.
So we were quiet. So it wasn't like there was a direct correlation to me doing media that day and turning around. It was literally years later. I had a light bulb moment at 41. I'm 51 now. I started my company 10 years ago. Like I said, freelancer and then solopreneur or with my partner, general partnership with my husband, and then corporate. But I had a light bulb moment at 41 where I literally was like, wait a minute, hold on. I don't have to make 20 calls an hour for something I don't care about anymore. Like literally all that, isn't that a publicist? Because I realized that not just all that work, but also when I would get involved with a political campaign or something local, a social thing, everyone would be doing their whatever. And I'd be like, all right, the press release. And they're like, the what now? The huh? So I realized nobody knows how to access media. And it suddenly hit me, I can do that for businesses. I can do that for people with a message. And that's when I started looking for people to hire me freelance. And then magically, one of my first clients was a woman named Professor Angela Sadler Williamson, who's the cousin of Rosa Parks, who was writing a movie called My Life with Rosie, and then further later a book called A Bond Between Cousins. So she hired me as a freelancer. I'm blown away because Rosa Parks is an activist. Obvious, I mean, like it's not even like a real person, just like whoa, right? I still get chills thinking about it. One of the highlights of my career is still 3 years after that when I finally met her in person in Detroit after the film had been done. Not Rosa, because Rosa's gone, but Angela. And but it was amazing because there I am in Detroit with Angela Sadler Williamson at Detroit Film Festival to watch it on the first time on the big screen, sitting in a row of like 2 rows of Rosa's direct family members, like her watch me, like a white girl from Canada. I don't know how this is even right? And then if that's not enough to blow my mind, right? The hero of mine, obviously,
yeah,
on the screen at the end, she thanks me in the credits, and I'm like, whoa. So then, of course, I'm like, wow. I'm like confident now, like people are paying me, like it's nothing. Whoa. And so then, since then, I mean, I'm just strategic and I'm smart. And I never went to school for any of this. In fact, I didn't go to any for business or for PR. I don't have any experience in any.
Dude, you got enough energy to just blast off all of the you don't need an education.
And now I'm teaching. Now I'm teaching students in a Florida marketing school about how to do PR for entrepreneurs. Plus, I've been speaking. I spoke once at Algonquin College, which is a big university in our capital city, Ottawa, to a PR students and to a team of, and this was really neat, PR professionals in Pennsylvania, which I started by saying interesting because it's all started when I wrote a little press release in a state called Pennsylvania, where a little guy on death row who couldn't get anybody's attention.
That was awesome.
Media people. So yeah, that's how. But the part that I want people to really get from that is that we all have something, whether it's something you're passionate about, whether it's a cause or whatever, or a hobby, and if you do something for 100 hours, you're a genius at it. You've got the skills, but you think you have to hate your 9 to 5. You think your job, your day job, has to pay for the stuff that you love, but you don't really like it. There are a million jobs you could actually be doing, around whatever it is you love. Or like, I thank whatever the universe every day that I took the path of an entrepreneur, because I wasn't educated to get a salary half or a third or a tenth of what I'm getting now. I was educated to be an entry level worker making $20,000 a year. And if I was lucky, I'd maybe get 40,000. Maybe if I worked really hard and hustled. But instead, I'm an entrepreneur thinking that, oh my God, there's no limit when you're an entrepreneur and things are getting better. And the more you're strategic and the more you're smart, and especially when the globe is your village. I mean, my clients are anybody in the English speaking world that wants to speak to media.
Nice. I assume it's anybody that wants to speak to the English speaking media. So
exactly.
It could really be anybody.
Exactly. You're right. Yeah. I have clients in the UAE. I have clients. Yeah, exactly.
That is awesome.
From here, and it's funny because I do a lot of traveling in a regular year, but because of the nature of my work. But it's funny, I've been stuck on Hamilton Mountain near Toronto, right? Not stuck on, I love my home and everything, but for 14 months, for someone who loves travel, any place is stuck on, right? It's not the location, it's just the lack of travel. But I've been joking that I've been still like taking over the world. I've literally climbed from Dubai to like Hollywood. So I'm joking, but Hamilton Mountain, not Hollywood Hills. It doesn't matter.
That is awesome. Well, congratulations on your success. That is fantastic.
But we can all do. That's
Nobody
the thing. If I can do it, crazy red hair girl, you know what I mean? I didn't have any.
This crazy redhead's got to stick together, girl.
Right. I liked you as soon as you popped on. I was like, oh yeah, you get the red in the background too.
Awesome. So who do you love to serve and support now? Who would you say is your ideal client?
Really, I don't even have an idea. Like, I have amazing projects across the board. Like, no lie, like just in the last week, somebody hired me for an amazing new artist. I'm not even say who it is right now because we're not developed, but a really cool new artist who's connected to some really big names in Canadian music. And I'm super excited to be on that project just because I see the future, what we can do there. And then at the same time, I'm literally working with a UK organization that was working like this right now with Fazia Kufi, trying to get her out of Afghanistan. It's one of the first female MPs in Afghanistan. They were working with her before all this happened, fighting for girls and women education. And then everything exploded in Afghanistan. And we were having daily conversations about how we're going to get her airlifted out of Afghanistan. And we just found out she's now in Doha. So she's safe now. So literally from to going to Hemp Fest, these are all different. Absolutely. How can you,
Can you find something a little more left field from that?
See what I'm saying? Like there's the people who watch my socials will be like, what now? Like I'm literally posting, going to Hemp Fest. I'm a judge for Hemp Fest. Today I'm trying whatever strain, because we're legal coast to coast for those who don't know who aren't in Canada, right? This is part of, and this is big business,
it's like wine tasting here.
And it's right, exactly. So, but I forget people don't realize that because things change so rapidly in 3 years. From that to literally, women and children in Afghanistan, which is life and death right now. I had a client, Help Heal Humanity doing work in Haiti on the ground. I literally one day I had a press release in Haiti about Haiti and a press release about Afghanistan. That was a day because they were both like literally life and death, had to go out right now, and I'm only the one doing it.
Wow.
So I'm like, I'm not sleeping tonight. But they both got their meet. We got Hamilton. Every single media came out for the Haiti one, like the 2 TV stations, everything. So at the end of the day, you're like, that was a good 18 hours. I feel good. I don't care. I'll do that again. You don't hate it. You're not like, oh my God, I'm exhausted for my job. You're feeling.
No, you love it. Clearly you love it. And it is awesome. Because I tell you, girl, I can write copy like none other about it. You get me in front of a press release, and I'm like, ba 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 ba.
But if you forced yourself for a while, because if you can write, you can write. Like I find that until we talk about writing for a minute, I'll be like, oh, I gotta write a press release. Oh, and I don't know why, because I'm good at them. But I'm always like, oh man, I gotta, oh man, and I'll like bug about it for like a day, and then I'll sit down and be like, all right, seriously, just write for immediate release, write the date, write the thing. And then I just start gathering a couple of the quotes. And what I do is I just put the things on there that are going to be the components of it. And then I start playing around, taking things out. And then literally at the end, what I almost always end up doing is literally taking the paragraph that was here. You'll understand as a copywriter, putting it up there, removing that. Like literally, I've changed it 100%. And now it's right.
So you just got to get those words out on the paper first, and then you can cut and paste your heart.
Yeah, right. And sometimes you're in your brain, you're just like, oh, for some reason, until you actually go like, I got this.
That's awesome. So other than your first story, which was an epic Cinderella story, thank you for that. But give me a kind of a business Cinderella story, somebody that you work with that thinks, oh my God, my business is so boring. The media is not going to care less about what I do. I mean, you can use ours as an example if you don't want to use anybody else, but like somebody does tech or something that's like,
No, people literally, I've been surprised. Like, this is why I say now when I speak to entrepreneurs or anybody, everybody, there is media for everybody. People literally, like one client who came on, they did it, they were really hard to like conceptualize because they did everything on the computer, really, but everything from SEO to whatever. So when I started looking, before we had really narrowed down how we were going to frame it, I just started looking for the incoming media opportunities that we could respond to, because there's incoming things on things like Hero and Sourcewell and whatever. And once I started looking for SEO, which is like, you think that'd be really dry.
Yeah.
I saw more media. He was thrilled with my work by the end of the week because I saw more media opportunities for him in everything from like Dentistry Magazine to like BuzzFeed to talk about different app or whatever, just from the incoming. And that was just SEO. So I've learned literally, and then I started using the example. I don't care if you do lawn care. I don't care if you clean toilets in a hotel. And you know what? Since I started using those, I've literally seen media requests for those, things, because no matter what it is you do, there's, the experience of what you're doing. You have the expertise that nobody else has, plus the whatever's around it, things you don't even, realize that that other people don't know. Like, and for example, real estate. Here's a perfect example. We all know a real estate agent or 15. Yep. Right. Yep. And when you go to their page, they're, no matter how awesome they are, pretty hard to differentiate. They're all looking like this. They're all, I sell houses, we're the best. They like pretty houses. Really hard to differentiate themselves. They spend shitloads of money, through my French, for advertising, or for, I'm French, I can say that, for advertising, for whatever. Like on a bus shelter, on like a lot of money, more than most entrepreneurs on a daily. And they don't know. And I literally, and I've never looked for clients, but real estate, I actually was like, okay, I got to get myself a client in real estate. It's literally making me crazy, like insane. How many media opportunities I see daily for real estate agents, daily, free media. And so finally I approached one and I got, an Ottawa client. He's renewed with me twice now, and for a year. He's now luxury quoted and globally quoted. There's been articles about him in California. He's been quoted in this and that. You see everything from like, Reader's Digest with a deadline of 4:00 at Tuesday, looking to speak to realtors who can talk about what color, they should paint their kitchen for a quick sale, or renovation people. I have a client in the States in the renovation space, and in Toronto now in the renovation space. And literally, again, daily, tons of media opportunities for your if you're a contractor, if you're just a contractor guy and you wanted me to get you media, make a web page that says Bob the Contractor, and then because sometimes I need to enter a website, and that's it. You don't have to own a company. You have the knowledge.
That is awesome.
That easy.
So what are some of the stumbling blocks that somebody might be having right now, and they're thinking, oh my God, Tracy, I need you so badly?
So one is not knowing how to get out there, just number one. But even if they're thinking that already, I think that if they're already coming and thinking I need a publicist, they're already a couple steps ahead of most entrepreneurs, because most entrepreneurs are not thinking that way. They think about marketing, they think about advertising, and the huge stumbling block for entrepreneurs who do want to get media, or for really anybody who wants to get media, is they write it in an advertorial way. And this is a skill of the press release. This is where it's more than just writing words and copy. You have to actually understand what the newsroom is looking for, because most entrepreneurs, 90% are going to write advertorial copy as opposed to editorial, or even when they're asked a question, they're going to answer in an advertorial way, which is going to get them sent to the ad department, as opposed to being looked at as a source. You can pay to have
your words on our
exactly. You can pay, if that's what you want. Like exactly.
If you don't know the difference between those two words, you want to look them up.
And that's huge. Part of what my book, I started writing a book. One of my clients asked me to write a book called "Get Rep, Build Your Brand with Effective Public and Media Relations," which is an
okay. Jesus, say that again slower.
Get repped. Build your brand with effective public and media relations. But I was asked by a client who's a publishing company to write it. And so it's aimed at entrepreneurs. So I started thinking, and that's why I started doing these podcasts too, because I realized that entrepreneurs really need to know this, even the ones who want to approach the media. I say, what's the first step if you want to approach the media? Stop, don't approach the media. Wait, just listen. Because while there's a world of media in your local market, it's not that much of a space. And you can, if you want to send out bad messaging that's going to make them roll their eyes and not open your next message, you kill yourself there. So you can break that bill, you can, burn that bridge as easily or easier than you can build it. So understand what's appropriate to send to a newsroom. And if it's not hard news, don't send it to, news at 8, at 6, but you might be able to send to the lifestyle department of the newspaper, but make sure you know how to frame it so it's a story. Anyway, there's lots of skills. And just a real quick tip on people to give you an idea of how to do that is, I had one client who it's a good example of the editorial versus advertorial. Even if it's a great thing you're doing, it's a charitable thing. So this company in Britain was giving out to every school in the UK something that they really could use in COVID. A really good system they could all give to their kids and help their teachers. It was great. Usually it was like $1,000 a month, whatever it is, but they were giving this stuff free. So it was actually a worthy story, But I said the problem, and I wrote the press release myself. I'm usually good at doing the editorial versus advertorial, so I couldn't blame their media release. I wrote it myself, but then when it didn't get any pickup at all, I was like, I didn't get any pickup, and I was just, So I read it again, okay, I'm an editor, reading it with my editor, and then I realized, what is this basically? It's a company putting out a release about the good thing they're doing, which is what now? Kind of an ad. Right. So really, if it's a slow news day and I want to look for something for school, sure, I might throw it in. Right. But it's not going to make me call up the company and do an interview. So then I was like, okay, how do we make this newsworthy? So I said, okay, what we have to do then is and told my client to forget about, it's not an ad, so forget about framing it the way you want. This is the way we can get you in, though, to BBC, to whatever, is we talk about the issue. We do a meeting, we get an expert who can talk about how kids are dealing with COVID, or how teachers, more importantly in this case, how the teachers and primary school teachers are dealing with COVID, and some things that can help them. We get to quote this expert. We talk about something else that can help them that's unrelated to you, not competitive with you, a completely different kind of thing. We talk about that in the thing too, and then we highlight what your company is doing and we quote your company. So now they get pretty much like an article, right? They could use it as an article, or they get the idea for a great article about what companies or whoever are doing, people, the community is doing to help primary school teachers who need it because of this reason. So now that's an article. They could be doing an article about how primary school teachers are affected, and as part of it, so the article is not going to be about you now, but if you get a nice paragraph in the Guardian quoting exactly. Your gold. So that's how you get that in. Yeah, that's a topical release. So that's how you make it, about something that's going on, and you insert yourself into that conversation.
So on that point, does something have to always be around an event?
No, for sure. It can be a matter of conversation, depending what your expertise is. I always say, if you and your friends are sitting around watching TV, and like say you're a relationship psychologist or something, I don't know, and you're watching about some breakup of whoever that I don't care about on television. I couldn't even think of a current couple.
You're so Canadian.
I was thinking
somebody and somebody else.
My references were going to be like 20 years ago, and I'm in the industry. I was going to be like Ben and Jen. No, that's old. Anyway, so whoever a current, power couple is, and they break up or whatever, and you were to say to your friend, oh, well, clearly she, whatever. You may not, this is where you get those articles like, Dr. Phil says, well, he hasn't he hasn't worked with superstar X. He says that in cases like this, women frequently blah, 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 blah. So it could be, it's not about a topic or an event. It's just a thing. Anything that you see in the news that sparks you, where you have an expert opinion and you can prove that you come from an expert, like you have a book or a website or a company or, anything where you have something that you can hang your hat on and your voice is a little different. You have a different aspect, especially if it's an ongoing story that they're going to have like COVID or, Black Lives Matter or something where they're going to have, there's definitely going to be ongoing stories, and you have something authentic. I'm not saying jumping on, especially when you're talking about Black Lives Matter or something. I'm not talking about jumping on and being false. I'm saying, but you have something authentic to add to that. Add it, right? To really say, whoever says, they may ignore it. Also, when you put out press release, it could be the best press release in the world, hit all the points. It doesn't mean it's going to get picked up because there's a million other variables, like what the newsroom has got going on that day, how many stories they did recently about that. And you don't know if it's good to be another one or not good to be another one. Like there's a million variables. It's a newsroom decision. And that's why all you can do is present the best, think of the best strategy. Make sure that you're presenting to them always something that's good for their audience. And then it's always, hit and miss who's going to, take it. And that's the skill, like you're only as good as your last win. So that's the fun of the adrenaline of all this too. You have to keep up. I had a journalist guy say to me, he's a podcaster too, but he's like a journalist originally. And he said, in a lot of times this crossover, people come from journalism and go into PR to journalism, back and forth. And and he said to me, I don't know how you do it, because I used to be in PR and it is really hard. Because I see you love it. He goes, and I was like, yeah, what do you mean? Because I love it so much. But he's like, no, it's true what he said. He's like, no, there's the pressure. Like, people pay you that money. Like, they're like a lawyer. They pay their money up front. I guess like a lawyer does. They pay you all that money. Now you got to go do the job and perform. And what if you're the lawyer and lose the case, or no media picks up that release? And the lawyer, I really feel sorry for, because then you're just done. With me, at least I have another world of strategies. With me, like,
there are no emergencies in marketing, people. There are no emergencies in marketing.
Like with that, right? Nobody, and we can always find another strategy too, right? Like, I mean, if we didn't get in the local paper, with that story, we can think of another story for them, or we can do this over here, and then they're gonna know whatever it is. It's always we can get some other something going.
Like, so talk to me about like writing controversial versus playing it safe, or controversial versus getting blacklisted. Like, where's the fine line in there?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I'm really heart-centered, and I always want young activist me that started this continue to be proud of, corporate me. So for me, I don't run into situations where, like, well, I guess I shouldn't say controversial, because I mean, the death penalty is hugely controversial to some people. Some people think Black Lives Matter is controversial, but I mean, so what I choose, it depends where you come from, I guess, what your angle is, right? But like, or some people misunderstand different aspects of things, and some things are, they just, what I mean? So because you're dealing with people's perception of things, there's no one COVID, there's no one even Black Lives Matter, there's no one, like, you're dealing with every audience you're talking to might have a different perception, whether it's because of lack of knowledge or because of extra knowledge, or whatever, right? Whatever. But yeah, so basically I always say be genuine, right? And and obviously you have to have a caveat with that, because I come from a place where I only work with people who, and this is why I don't like corporate, I like things where it's an individual, whether it's a small business owner, an artist or something, where there's more accountability. There's one person, is that person's message. I can trust that person. If they go off and change it, and go somewhere, I'm not going to go with them. Publicist or not, I mean, I'm not there to make, racism pretty. I'm not doing that. That's not me. You only see me take on things that I'm ethically aligned with. And that's just part of my, that's me and my brand. My company has my name on it. I'm an activist. I'm not an activist now. I'm still an advocate. Like I say, I want that girl to be proud of this girl. Right? That's the best way I could put it.
And sometimes when you speak your truth, it just comes out controversially.
And that's the thing. So you have to be ready for that's the thing. You have to be ready for that, right? And then that's where you pick. And I've actually, I put my book back to add a chapter about this, because I learned during COVID, some people who built their brand on really good or personal brand, and then all of a sudden they exploded into whatever and they hurt themselves. And so where's that line between, like, you have to be, if you're willing to go out, whether it's yourself personally or your company in this world on an issue, make sure that you really are willing to go out there on that issue. What I advise then is, be very cautious with just sharing random memes, because even me, understanding not everyone knows where that comes from and what that is. I make a judgment based on what you share on the internet, and sometimes people just share a meme quickly because they think the meme's cool without looking to see where it came from or who made it, and then all of a sudden you click on the thing. It's like, whoa, what are you doing with that? And they may not even realize they just align themselves with some crazy shit, and that other people will be like, whoa, I'm not dealing with that. They may not even realize that. So you have to be very cautious on the internet and the footsteps that you take and all that. That when you stand for something, and you should be like this in life, you should really mean it when you stand for something. And then if you really mean it, then you know what, then you make the determination if you're willing to take any hits that come from it, business or personal. And as an activist, I've had to. My history in Chatham, a conservative town, when I started speaking up, it wasn't, like I said, 20 years even working with this thing as controversial as the death penalty. I didn't really get my shots until I was trying to defend a couple lesbians in Ontario in 2012. So you never know where the hits are going to come. But as activists, if you're going to be an activist or an advocate or act like one on TV or on the interwebs, you have to understand, while some people may applaud you for it, other people will not appreciate it. And so when you're making, that's just a personal and a business decision you have to make. I don't shy away from anything like that in my business, because I believe, and this is true, people be genuine and authentic, because your crowd, your people will come to you. Unless, and now obviously in COVID, genuine and authentic to some people have been like really crazy and off the rails, unfortunately. So, where do you draw that line to think, am I, should I? But so really, the best way to look at it is make sure that if you're willing to go out there on any issue as a business person or as a individual, because it doesn't make a difference in the internet, right? That that you believe what you're saying, hopefully know what you're talking about. That's important too. Like, don't just believe it because someone you like shared it. Like, if you're gonna get out there, you got to be ready to stand up for it and say, that is what I believe. You know what I mean? Unless you want to be apologizing for something and looking like an idiot, and hoping that people take your apology, which a lot of times is too late. So be cautious. So again, if you really, be genuine, but step out there after you've evaluated it. Am I willing to stand up there for this? Am I willing to take the shots for this? Am I willing to do that? Is this worth it to me? Is it worth it? And sometimes it is. Sometimes things are more important than, or is it something I should be like, what is the advantage to me, or like really anything I'm advocating for by me doing this?
Right. I love that.
Strategy.
Absolutely. Because I know there's a ton of things that people will stand up and say, this is my values. But at the end of the day, you got to go like, really, are you standing up for that? Are you willing to be ostracized for that? Or are you just trying to make a business statement out on social media? And if that's the case,
exactly. So be very cautious.
Be controversial with your background.
Yeah, and step in when you're ready. Like, if you're ready to step in, hey, do it, but make sure you're ready to stand there. I don't step in unless I'm like, I barely made a comment during COVID because I legit, and usually it's weird because I'm silent like about it, and usually I'm like, blah, blah, blah. But you know why? Because I'm not a doctor, not a scientist, not an avid. I really have been so confused through all of this. I didn't know who to believe from one end to the other from anything. I mean, and I'm not. So I need to get on airplanes. I got my shots. My daughter is pregnant. She didn't get her shot. She will later. Everyone's got to make their own decision. I haven't been I have friends that are like very angry anti-maskers and whatever, and I have other friends that think that's ridiculous. Whatever. I don't speak about that because I'm not confident that I know what I'm talking about. So therefore, I don't say much. And that's
you just did.
No, but I did. I said I don't know anything still. Right. Though. Like I still don't. Like I've just been following what the best information that I sort of can have. Like, I need to get on the planes. I got my shots. That's really what made me make that decision. Anything else? I just wanted to all be over. Like, everyone is so passionate about it on both sides. I literally haven't got in on it, not because I'm afraid to, but because I don't get in on things if I don't have a solid ground. I don't really know what I'm talking about. So I'm not just going to pretend like I do or pick a side or that sounds cool. I don't have time to study this for 15 days or hours. So
we got better things to do. I love it. So in the realm of business and creating a business, changing the image to changing the image, but creating an image that media is interested in. Somebody comes to you and you set them up. How quickly could this impact their business if it's done right?
I had one client who literally, and I said this on podcast before, I was quoted because it's a great quote, but like literally after 6 weeks of working together, we'd had 4 articles, a couple of media interviews, and put up for an award that she hadn't yet won, but she ended up winning. This is a Canadian client, IB&B actually. And she said, you've changed my business and my life. And she was a hard one. At first, she didn't know what PR, she knew what PR was from media, but she didn't really know how it was going to work for her. And it was a startup. She didn't have much money, and she invested. I could tell she was one I was going to have to convince of the worth of it. But very quickly, because she literally said that. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, you've made investors take us more seriously. So right there, she was in her pre-seed funding, going to seed funding. And I had never thought of that because I'm not a finance girl. I was only thinking of how it impacts you in terms of exciting your current client base, attracting new clients, but it also makes, builds your thought leadership for all that stuff. It does. And how quickly can it happen? Literally, if people hire me, I don't take anybody's, for me, for example, I can only speak on myself. I didn't go to PR school. But now 10 years in, like it was different years ago, right? But now 10 years in, I have all these relationships that I developed. I have all that, literally, I don't take anybody's money unless I know right away, at least, my first 3 steps that I'm going to be able to get for them. And then the rest of the month, we're looking at all these different opportunities and building them, whatever. But right away, like literally, I start working on somebody for like a day. I get their bio, all their stuff, kind of right up the punchy little thing. And then I just start sending it around. Like within a day, they have a bunch of yeses and they're doing media interviews. And then obviously we have to build on that and start putting that into their bio and, just putting them up for speaking engagements because they want to, you can be in New York Times and then you're not in the New York Times the next day and it's over. You've got to use that. Yes, hopefully it's going to have brought you some new client, that one thing, but then also you put that in your bio, you start applying for speaking and high profile speaking engagements on the strength of the fact that you've been in the New York Times. And so it's the longer game, but it starts happening quickly. And my favorite story, I had one client, life coach, which there's a million of them, again, like real estate agents. She's awesome, but 26 years old, she had no way to show the world that or differentiate herself. So she started thinking, she wanted to share her story of how she lived successfully. Her story is living successfully with bipolar. And she wanted to help other people to do that. So I gave her like a really good deal because she's 26 years old, like, young, right? And then she had a good story. I knew I could get some pretty good media for her with that. Literally the day after she hired me on these incoming, I see Good Housekeeping magazine, iconic magazine, every single drugstore counter in the world, looking for women between 26 and 40 willing to share their bipolar experience. I pitch her. The woman says, yeah, sure, I'll talk to her. I said, you have to talk to her. She literally wants to share this story to help. It's perfect for, I was really strong on the pitch. They interviewed her. They loved her. That's where it mattered what she said. They loved her. They put her in the print issue of Good Housekeeping, which is literally on every magazine counter in the world. Everyone. So she's hired me, one individual, every single month since then. She's been in she finds them. I don't give her, I still charge her my original rate, so long grandfathered in, right? But it's also an easy sell because all we have to, anything she speaks on mental health, we've got her in a ton of things now because all we have to say, as it was a cover story, not her picture on the cover, but like, I am not my mental illness, and then open. So it's a big, she's a cover story in Good Housekeeping. She's gotten so much media, that's not even funny. Built her career on it. Got all kinds of clients on it. So that was from one email.
That is awesome. Because my next question was going to be somebody that's just a tradesperson. They're going like, how am I going to get interviewed on CNN and for what? Like for plumbing? Like, how does that become national news? And if I do get interviewed on it, what the hell do I have to know?
Yeah. So it may not be CNN that you get tomorrow, but plumbing. I literally see things on like for example, that some of those services that I was just telling, like literally right behind you on my computer right now, if I went to look, need designers to comment on retro style, writing a guide to retro style, looking for interior designers to share a brief history, key characters, and decor tips about recent revival of retro style. Any interior designer can answer that.
Well, yeah.
All you need to do is answer that and add the little bio. More about Tracy. Tracy's a blah, 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 blah. Boom. If they like your answer, now you're in whatever that was. Next one, New York Lifestyles magazine. Look, you're doing a thing right now. She's Single magazine. How to ask an influencer to promote your product. Any entrepreneur who so literally there's a ton of opportunity. And plumbing, I can't remember because I don't have a plumber, so I wasn't thinking about it. But construction, literally, I have somebody who does roofing. I saw one yesterday. It was 10 questions about roofing for some, and I don't remember. It was like Insider magazine or something.
Wow. That is fantastic.
And so that's how you get to see it. So once you get 3 or 4 quotes with that, as now I can say, as quoted, now in her bio, all of a sudden is like, now I can put in my bio, quoted New Yorker, Reader's Digest, New Yorker magazine, Rolling Stone magazine, NBC, CNN, or NBC, half whatever I have in my thing.
Whatever acronyms those are.
I've been on way more, but I don't even put the human rights stuff on there. I just put, that's the business stuff when I put those things, right?
So how important are those on a website?
Well, to be able to say that, again, it's the social credibility we talk about, right? In the old days, the old world, everyone knew Bob in the street, and you had a reputation. Now you got to build that reputation on a global level on the internet. Anybody, and it's not just having, the logo, because anybody can go and grab the logo, and I've seen people lie and do it. I'm like, you got to remove that immediately. Like, seriously, no, you're not even hiring me. Like, people put that, we're just putting those as placeholders. But you want to reach out to media with that as a placeholder? No, remove that, have no media. I'll get you some media. When you get the media, you put that on, okay? But so people can go fake, could put the thing is today, everyone can put any kind of recommendation on their bio. They can make this stuff look beautiful. They can hire someone to make a deck that makes you want to give them $1 million. But the social proof is, before I go and do any of that, before I even do business with anybody, I go and use a little thing called Google. And what I judge, because I know about media and all that, I probably judge harshly. Most people don't expect you to have media. But if you're a real expert, if you're whatever, if I go and Google you and I only see stuff you put up, like your website and your socials, even if it looks awesome, all right, I guess you don't have a publicist or you don't think about media. I don't know, maybe that's all it is. But I mean, a lot of people don't. Because I mean, like, for example, I just started working with a woman in health, 30-year history. People come from all over the world to see her, literally in Ontario. She had zero media. So when I started pitching her to some health and wellness stuff, she's a really good one. I loved her answer. And they're like, well, does she have any other media? And I was like, usually you don't lose it because they go with the answer. But this one, they wanted to see something else. And I said, you know what? Good answer. I got her in PR. But it's true. It's all, I said, no, actually, she doesn't. You will be her first major media. But the reason for that is because this is a healthcare provider. She spent the last 30 years literally building her reputation, serving patients. They come to her from around the world. She hired me, 2 weeks ago when I met her on LinkedIn, and I told her she needed to be getting media. So now we're getting her media. That's not been her focus. They're like, yeah, I see. Okay. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It does, right? Because it's like she's a true expert. She hasn't been running around looking for stages. She's been helping people doing this.
Right.
Now
That's awesome.
Right?
So I know that our listeners are going to want to get more from you. So how did they start their journey with you?
So I'm more than happy if anyone tells me that they, I don't have a book to give away or anything yet, but if anybody tells me they urged me here, then I'm literally more than happy to give them a free 30 minutes where we can do a consult. So they can really get in their heads, not just a sales thing. We'll talk about your business. I'll give you some ideas that, you'll be able to use even if you get off the phone and never call me again, because you see me, blah, 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 that's the way I talk. but I'll also frame it for you. So you'll see, you would know what you would actually what you could expect. And just so you know, because PR can be like, calling a lawyer. It can be extremely expensive and hard for small businesses to deal with. And because because they always want like a 3-month minimum and and I am an entrepreneur too. And I know that, even when something's awesome, I can't necessarily even when I have the money, just throw 15,000 at something that's unthought of. I haven't tested. So what I do, because I do so much speaking to this audience, is I've created a couple of packages and I know what I can get, for whatever. So I have 2 different packages, both under $1,000 a month. One is like $1,000 a month, one is like $599 a month. Both are cheaper if you're buying, this is the Advertorial, but just to get you an idea that it really is, accessible, right? Both are cheaper if you're buying a multi-month package even. So for the 3 months, but either way, so that's way lower than my corporate prices. That's literally a gift to entrepreneurs because I want them to try PR. I'm like, nobody's I'm sorry I spent that money. I've never heard someone say I'm really sorry I spent that money. Instead, they're like, it's either they either hire me again or they're like, man, I don't have the budget for today, this week, but next month I'm coming back, and they come back and refer 5 people to me, because it doesn't matter what business you're in. If you were going to think about buying an ad, it's way better to pay the publicist and get 3 actual things. That you don't come to me and I don't tell you to pay this guy or that guy. It's earned media. PR is not advertising. So you're never going to hire me and then I'm going to come up to you and tell you need to pay money to get into this. If I ever pitch something and they come back, I'm pretty harsh about it too. Like I pitched something from them, they were looking for guests and I pitched them and then they're like, oh yeah, but we have a $29 appearance fee or something. And I was like, you know what, that's called advertising.
Yeah.
My clients are expert guests. They don't pay to be interviewed. They're expert sources they come on CNN, they go on Checker TV. They might come on your show, but they won't ask you for pay, but they're not paying you. So yeah, so I don't ask you, you literally come, I find the opportunities for you to be respected and quoted as an expert source in things like Reader's Digest, things of that level. And then also we do media messaging to your local paper, and of course we don't know what they're going to, when we're doing something yet, we don't know what they're going to pick up, but I wouldn't have the track record I do and the reputation I do if we weren't, successful in messaging and getting things out there.
Nice. So I know, peeps, that you can go to lamourie.com and get more information from Tracy.
Or find me on LinkedIn or...
I will have those in the show notes, or you can go to awarenessstrategies.com/blog and look up Tracy or PR and tips or this girl's a pistol and you'll find Tracy in there.
Red hair.
Red hair, absolutely. We'll have all those buzzwords in there for you. That is awesome. So I do have to ask you before we let you go, and I'm sorry that we're getting to that point, but we'll definitely have you on again. But let me ask you this. At what point in your life did you know that you were that special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
It's funny because I never even framed it like an entrepreneur. Like it was literally like I just started, hey, isn't that a publicist? I could start doing this. And then there was freelance sites. So it made it easy to slip into that as a freelancer, right? Because it's not a big mindset change from there. It's like, oh, cool, I can just, and then But starting my own business, it took support of a friend 2 different times. Took support of a friend who was like more business minded than me, who saw my success as a freelancer, who said to me for my birthday gift, she was like, you got to you got to register your business, right? This is before incorporation, as a general partnership, what I did. And she was like, you got it. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Oh, okay. I don't know anything about that language. It didn't mean anything to me. So she finally said, for your birthday, I'm going to buy for $129. That's what I'm buying. You're going to go down to the office and register.
That's a good friend.
It was so good, right? So, so that started. Now, okay, I got a company called Lamourie PR. It was Lamourie PR and marketing, I called it first, because I wasn't confident enough that I would always have the PR job. I thought, oh, maybe I'll get some marketing, entry level. And no, I never needed to do that. So when we finally, a different friend, Jane, a year ago, when we were 5 years in, we had to renew that. My friend Jane, who'd been bugging me forever, who is a business expert, who's Jane McCormick Consulting. She's like a client of mine, but she's also like my hero because she did everything like you need to do from the back end. She's like, no, you're pitching way above this is ridiculous. You do. So she made me incorporate, and that I was scared of because that sounded scary. It's a whole different deal, But my husband's got more of a brain for finance. So he does the numbers, he does that, and I just deal with clients and words.
Nice. Well, congratulations on that. I'm totally with her on that. Get incorporated, people.
Yeah, I'm so glad now. I'm like, man, I was an idiot. I should have done this 10 years ago. But I'm proud of myself. 1 year we did super well, like in our little baby corporation.
Nice.
Continue to
and keep
well,
your receipts.
Yes. Oh man, I learned that because I was really, you know who you're talking to. I was bad about that 2 years ago, and then the end of the year was a nightmare. And now it's all like we've got the sage, and we've got it's all someone else deals with it. My husband, he doesn't like that part. But I'm like, don't talk to me about that. Will I make you call media?
There's a creative side of the business, and there's a business side of the business.
Yeah, we all have
our roles. Yeah. That is awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I know how valuable it is, and I appreciate it immensely. So any last words for our peeps?
No, and last phrase I always end with on just Jimmy Dennis always said, never, never give up. And we can see where that brought him, even in a hopeless situation. And then I saw a little meme last year that said, we didn't get this far to only get this far. And even when he's, depressed and feeling down, I say that to him because now he's calling me from a Sal, not a Sal. And we're worried about, the gray in our hair or feeling the cough or whatever, instead of trying to move mountains to do the impossible, right? So we didn't get this far to only get this far. And that works whether you're doing well or whether you really had you're wanting to jump off a mountain feeling horrible, if you've gotten through a lot, because we all have, but you're still standing, so you're a winner. You're still here. You didn't fall down. You still made it. So you didn't get this far to only get this far. So keep on going, especially that person who needs that encouragement.
Love that. Don't jump off the mountain unless you got a parachute and you got somebody else with you that knows what they're doing.
You got it. and a video and a camera, and they're showing you on the news, and
Exactly. And we got our PR person, and we can do this, people. We can do that. That is awesome. Thank you so much again.
Thanks, Michelle.
This is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. If you know anyone who would make a great guest for the show, or if you have a question or topic you'd like me to discuss, reach out to me at michelle@awarenessstrategies.com or connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I would love to hear from you.
Thank you for listening to our show. I am all about being a resource center for entrepreneurs to give them the information and the support that they need to make it in business. As such, I have Taking Your Business Digital Q&A every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Mountain. To register for that, go to awarenessstrategies.com/digital. That's DIGITAL. I look forward to meeting you and actually finding out how you are. So see you on the flip side.